Hey guys, so today's video is going to be our pregnancy story, how we found out we were pregnant with baby number 3, pregnancy number 2. I keep getting confused. So if you're new to my channel, my name's Melissa. I am 29 years old. I'm currently pregnant with my second pregnancy. My third child, our oldest child, is adopted. Our whole adoption story and everything is online on my vlog channel already if you're interested in that. But yeah, baby number 3. I can't even believe it. So this is really hard for me to talk about. I probably will cry at some point in the video. Not even all of my family know the whole story. So it's something that I definitely wanted to share with you guys, that I think it's pertinent to our pregnancy journey and stuff like that, especially if you've been following me for a long time. You know that I have a whole pregnancy series of my first pregnancy that I did have, how we conceived, our pregnancy struggles, that I will touch on a bit in this video just to give you guys a background story. So I got pregnant with Maddie, which is my first pregnancy, second child, in January of 2013. I delivered her October 1st, 2013 via cesarean section due to failure to progress as far as a vaginal delivery. Again, I have the whole labor story and everything. I will link the playlist down below if you're interested. So with her, we did struggle quite a bit to get pregnant. I had to take, it took us 15 months total to get pregnant from the time we started trying when we got married in October 2011 to the time I actually got pregnant. I had to take medroxyprogesterone, which is it's a hormone to make your body start your period. I have had very irregular periods with no diagnosis. I've never had PCOS, I've never had endometriosis, any type of significant issue with my uterus at all that would have stopped me from getting pregnant. You know, my OB/GYN at the time thought maybe it was my size or stress, you know, things like that. So I did have to take medroxyprogesterone to actually get my cycles regular. And then I had to take 2 rounds of Clomid, which is a fertility pill that helps you get pregnant, that it makes you ovulate. And I had to take 2 rounds of that before I actually got pregnant. So when I got pregnant, I found out February 4th. And I remember specifically, I was taking a pregnancy test. This was with Maddie, with my first pregnancy. I took a pregnancy test just to be able to start my new round of medroxyprogesterone, start my period, start my round of Clomid. And I had happened to be positive. I could not believe it. Happened to be positive. I went and got a blood test confirmation, ultrasound confirmation, carried the pregnancy to term. I ended up delivering at 38 weeks, 2 days, but it was still full term. She just was big. She was 8 pounds, 8 ounces. She did not want to fit out of my vagina, so I ended up having a C-section. It was a pretty traumatic experience at the time. I was not a labor and delivery nurse at the time, so I didn't understand everything that was happening. I am a labor and delivery nurse at the hospital that I delivered at now, and so I understand now why things happened then, and I have a much better understanding of this pregnancy and my delivery in this case now. So Andres and I had talked about trying again to have a baby, and we knew we wanted to try ahead of time because I was under the anticipation it would take a long time to get pregnant. So after I delivered Maddie, it took me about 6 months, 7 months to actually get a period back again. And it wasn't from breastfeeding or anything like that, because I had a lot of trouble breastfeeding. I was only able to breastfeed her for a little over a month, and it wasn't even regular at that. We were supplementing the entire time. It was rough. It was a rough process for me. I felt like my body was failing me left and right. It was rough. So when Andres and I decided to start trying again, it was over the summer of 2015, which was this past year. And I was like, it's going to take a long time. We might as well stop using protection and start trying again. Well, it didn't take that long. We started trying in August/September of 2015, and I even had an irregular period in between there somewhere, so I knew, I was like, I'm gonna have to take pills again. I know it, because my periods are already irregular and there's no way this is gonna happen quickly. Well, I actually found out I was pregnant November 10th, which happened to be my mom's birthday, so I couldn't even believe it. And I happened to take it on a whim because I had not started my period, and it was super late, and I just thought, oh, it was an irregular period. I didn't have pregnancy symptoms or anything. I just happened to take a pregnancy test, and I was like, oh my god, this is positive. You've got to be kidding me. So that was November 10th. I have it written down in my planner here. So November 10th, and then November 11th, I went to get a blood test confirmation, and it was positive. I was going to be expecting in July 2016. And then I told my mom on the 12th. Everything was fine and dandy. Honestly, we were shocked. I couldn't believe I got pregnant so quickly with zero trying really behind it. It took us like one cycle, one full cycle to get pregnant. I could not believe it. It was crazy. And we weren't even trying, this may be TMI, but we weren't even trying that hard. When we were trying to get pregnant with Maddie, we were very consistent with everything. We had got several things tested to make sure everything was working properly. And we weren't even trying this hard this time, because I was kind of like, oh, if it happens, it happens. Not a big deal. We had lots of plans for traveling in 2016 because our 10-year anniversary is in June. Our 5-year marriage anniversary is in October. I'll be 30 in November. So we had so much traveling planned for this year. I was like, oh, it's not a big deal. If it happens, it happens. No worries, right? Well, it happened. And then, we were just trying to wrap our brains around what we were going to do with 3 kids at that time. It was just like all these things were going through my head. The holidays were coming. I was so excited because I always wanted to be able to announce the pregnancy via a Christmas card. I thought that was the coolest thing. We wanted to, hold up the ultrasound picture and just all these things. I thought it would be so awesome. November 18th rolled around, which was about a week. It was exactly a week after I found out I was pregnant. I started bleeding. It started as spotting, and it progressed into more of like a period bright red blood. I knew in my heart I was miscarried. I knew it. I don't even know why this is so hard to talk about now, because it happened so long ago. Even though I knew, I was like still trying to be optimistic. I thought, maybe there was lots of things that could be happening. I had had some spotting with Maddie in the beginning, not necessarily like bleeding, but some spotting, but I just was trying to be optimistic. I was researching stuff, and I was like, from my knowledge as a labor and delivery nurse, like I was trying to think of everything that it could be aside from miscarriage. So I finally convinced myself just to go. I was bleeding a lot. Just go to the ER. Just go. I went to the ER, and they did an ultrasound, and she said, it's kind of early. I was 5 weeks, and it was kind of early. I was actually 6 weeks at that point, but she's like, it's kind of early to see, an embryo at any point in the ultrasound, or regardless of heartbeat. Like, she's like, it's really hard to tell, so we have to check your hcg levels to make sure they've either gone down or stayed consistent. You could just be having some bleeding, early onset bleeding, just different things like that. So I was like, okay, check my levels. I had a pelvic exam, and my levels came back extremely low. They were a 4 hcg, which is pretty much non-existent pregnancy. So at that point, we knew I had lost the baby. I was no longer pregnant. I had miscarried. I specifically took it really rough. The only people we had told at that point was my mom, and I had told my best friend Bia, well, Heidi, you guys, I call her Bia, but her name's Heidi. I had told them too, and I had already texted her. She's an ER nurse. I had already texted her. I told her, like, I was bleeding, this, this, and that, if I should go into her hospital or not. And it happened. It is what it is. On my pelvic exam, my cervix was completely closed, my inner os and outer os was completely closed, so I was literally just experiencing a period. It was like I miscarried. Luckily, thank goodness, I was not that far along to have to pass or deliver any type of embryonic sac or placenta, God forbid, or anything like that. As a labor and delivery nurse, I see that all the time, and it's heartbreaking to have to go through that. And as heartbroken as I was so thankful that I didn't have to do that. I'm trying to hold it together, it's not working. So that being said, I had just essentially a miscarriage, and it was very early on, so I did have a little bit of clotting that was released. Nothing big. It was like an overly heavy period, and it sucked, but I knew it was going to happen. I went to go see, I knew that's what the continuing process of it was. I went to go see my OBGYN, and she was like, you know, it just happens. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong. And I know this stuff, like I know it, but it still hurts. So anyway, my OBGYN was like, you can keep trying, you know, you don't even have to wait 6 weeks, you can keep trying. I didn't require a DNC where they go and scrape out anything from your uterus. I didn't require anything. It was just kind of like if I hadn't tested positive and I hadn't taken that pregnancy test so early, I probably would not have even known that I had been pregnant. I would have just thought I was having a heavy period and didn't think the wiser, which is probably how a lot of women who aren't regularly taking pregnancy tests and blood tests and things like that, if you're not regularly doing that, you could easily have had a miscarriage at any point if your period's a little late. And those types of things didn't cross my mind. I didn't experience that with Maddie, and so this time it was hard. So what made it even harder was that I miscarried on the 18th and my birthday is the 22nd of November. So that weekend I did not want to celebrate at all. I told Andres, I was like, I don't want to go to dinner. I took it really hard. I didn't talk to anybody. I was very depressed. I didn't hang out with my friends. I say depressed very loosely. I didn't have to like take medication or anything for it. I was just really sad. And you know, I kind of felt like Andres was sad, but not as sad as I was. And I think it was just because any woman who's been through a miscarriage, no matter at what point in your pregnancy, it's rough. But I think for me, it was like I was just wrapping my head around it, having 3 kids, what we were going to do with our car and the house and all these things. And now to go through it again, because now I'm going to be terrified to get pregnant again, and it was just all these emotions going through my head. So that weekend was really rough. Andres ended up not listening and taking me to meet my family and my best friend for a birthday dinner, and I'm crying because he's so good to me. So that was fun, and it was actually what I needed. I had some margaritas and drank away my sorrows. So now, leading up to this pregnancy, it was the weirdest thing ever. I never even had a period, which I know logically in my brain with my knowledge, I know you don't have to have a period to ovulate. However, I always correlate the two because I never ovulated without my period when I was trying to get pregnant with Maddie. And I had to go in for so many tests, like with fertility treatment and stuff like that. You have to do tests regularly to check your HCG levels and to check your hormone levels and like all these different things. And so I know logically you don't have to have a period to ovulate. That's how many women who don't have a period while they're breastfeeding get pregnant again, because they think they're not ovulating. You are and can ovulate when you don't have a period. However, I had just experienced a miscarriage. I thought my body was all messed up. So my OBGYN gave us the okay to try again, and I told Andres, I was like, I don't really know that I want to try again. I mean, you know, we can continue to not use protection, but I don't know that I'm ready to 100% put myself into not trying again. I don't know how I'm going to feel after this experience. So, you know, days and weeks went by, and I had gotten past it. I was able to talk about it without crying. I was able to, you know, it was like one of those things, like, as much as I hated going through the experience, I was grateful for several things. One, that I didn't have to experience it later in the pregnancy, because again, I experienced that at work all the time, and it is so heartbreaking to see these women have to deliver a baby who is dead. It is awful experience, and I did not want to have to experience that. No one does, of course, but I was grateful that if that was God's will, it had to happen. I was grateful that it happened in the beginning and not any further into it. And maybe that's selfish to say, but it's what I was feeling at the time. And also, I was grateful that if I had to experience it, I'm glad that I experienced it, because as a labor and delivery nurse, whenever I am delivering those mommies who have lost their baby, whether they're 15 weeks or full term, which is awful to think about, I know, but it happens. If I have to deliver those moms that have to go through that, I want to be able to empathize with them. And I've never been able to empathize with them. My sympathy, my heart goes out to them each and every time. It is sad, and I cry with them, but I've never been able to empathize because I've never had a miscarriage before. And so now I don't maybe know what it feels like, obviously, to deliver a baby, to have to go in and not leave the hospital with your baby. But I know what it feels like to have love for something that is no longer there. So, even though it sucked, I'm grateful. So I told Andres, you know, whatever, it's not a big deal. Like, we'll just go have a great next year, travel and have fun and all these things. And he's like, okay, no big deal. I never got my period. Never got my period since I was bleeding right around my birthday in November. Didn't get my period in December. And actually New Year's Eve, I actually took a pregnancy test because I was like, I'm going to have a margarita or some champagne or some wine, and I didn't want to drink if I was pregnant, obviously. It was negative. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to have a drink. I think I had a margarita, maybe 2, very light margaritas, but still, I think I had a couple. And that was that. I didn't get a period in January. The end of January, like middle to end of January, I told Andres one day, I was like, is there any way I could be pregnant? Like, this is crazy. I know that I'm even asking this, but really, is there any way I could be pregnant? And I'm going back and looking at the dates and stuff, and I'm like, I've never even had a period. Like, there's no way. My body has been jacked up for all these years, and the one time I have a miscarriage and don't have a period, I ovulated. Like, that would be my luck. Sure enough, it was. Never did I have a period since I had my miscarriage in November. I have yet to have one. On February 4th, which is the exact day that I found out I was pregnant with Maddie. It's crazy how that works. Crazy. I put this footage in my pregnancy announcement video, but I will insert it here. Okay, so I've kind of been feeling like I may be pregnant. I was telling Andres, and I was like, oh, I could just take like a cheapy Dollar Tree pregnancy test, because why waste the money? I'm sure I'm not. Like, there's really no way. There's the Dollar Tree test. 2 lines equals Prego. And I was doing research online, and I mean, they seem to be legit. So I'm going to take a clear blue one that says pregnant, not pregnant, to see if it's legit. So looks like the Dollar Tree ones work. He bought a Dollar Tree pregnancy test because I was like, why waste $10? I'm sure I'm not pregnant. But I was just feeling like, in January I was feeling so tired. I literally could not get up off the couch. I was sleeping all the time. I was nauseous, not vomiting, but super nauseous. And I just kept telling myself, there's no way I'm pregnant. There's no way. I just had a miscarriage. You're telling me I got pregnant right away? Like, there's no way. It took me almost 1.5 years to get pregnant with Maddie. Sure enough, I took that Dollar Tree pregnancy test. It was positive. So I made him go out and buy a more expensive one. It was positive. I could not believe it. Could not believe it. And then at that point, I was super happy, but I was just bawling because I told him, I was like, I cannot go through this again. I cannot go through this again. And all I kept thinking back was to the miscarriage. Is it going to happen again? Am I going to start bleeding? What if something goes wrong and I don't make it to a stage of viability and I have to deliver the baby? And that all my brain could think of was negative things. So I was happy, but I was like torn up about it for weeks. I felt really like a horrible person because I'm like, who feels this way about their pregnancy? But I know there's hundreds of thousands of women in the world that aren't happy to be pregnant. And that's the messed up thing, is I was happy to be pregnant, but it was like taking the happiness away from it, from all the thoughts that I was having. So I found out February 4th that I was pregnant, and I called my OBGYN and I set up an appointment on Monday the 8th of February. Had an ultrasound, and there was a heartbeat.
One baby, how about that? That'll work, huh?
Yeah, one will work.
One. I'm just going to measure from the little bottom to the little head.
So I have
9 weeks in a day.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my god, 9 weeks.
9
Yeah,
weeks.
you guys got pregnant right away.
Man.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
Dark circle here is the pregnancy, and that is your baby. Wow. This little blip is a head, here's a body. Yeah, you see it? I'm going to try to blow it up a little better.
Can you see the flicker?
Mm-hmm.
There we go. I'm going to blow it up right there. You see a little flickering?
Uh-huh.
That's the heart beating.
Oh my
So you
god.
have one little baby.
It's official. And I could not believe it. I was already 9 weeks when I had my first ultrasound. I could not believe it. So we conceived sometime in December, and I am due September 11th. which again is crazy to me how it happened. Crazy that I was like freaking fertile myrtle. So if any of you, my whole point in sharing this with you guys is, I know the last time that I shared my struggles to conceive with you guys, so many of you found it so helpful to hear somebody else's story that has struggled and has had a happy outcome. My point of sharing this is, if any of you have experienced heartache, there could be light at the end of the tunnel, because I am now almost 23 weeks pregnant and I don't know the gender yet, but I don't even care as long as it's healthy. So that weekend after we had our ultrasound, we were in Colorado and I shared the news with all of my family, which they were super excited. Not everyone even knows that I've had a miscarriage. I didn't want at the time for anyone to feel sorry for me. I wanted to take my mind off of it. I didn't want sympathy, because I'm not the only person that has ever experienced this. There is so many women out there that have experienced miscarriages, as I stated, in later times of their pregnancy, or have miscarried. So I'm taking care of so many women that have miscarried so many times that I can't even imagine going through that more than once. And so by no means do I feel like I deserve all the sympathy in the world, because I don't. I just really wanted to share my story with you guys, because especially sharing my life online, a lot of people look at my life and think that it's so blessed and privileged, and not everything's roses and butterflies. You know, people go through stuff too that they don't share, and always keep that in mind, that if you're struggling, there are other people that are struggling with you, and there's no reason for you to do it alone. So that being said, all of that sad and sappy stuff, I'm gonna really try and stop crying. Like, I feel like I have a lump stuck in my throat that's been there the entire video. I am happy to announce that the pregnancy has been wonderful. I was super sick in the beginning, but other than that kind of stuff, it's been progressing really nicely. The baby's growing and everything's fine so far. I am still, 22 weeks and 3 days, and things could still happen for sure. I'm not out of the woods. So you're never out of the woods. Even after you deliver your baby, things could still go wrong. But trying to keep a positive attitude and not get so freaked out and let all the negative things and thoughts that were in my mind when I found out I was pregnant get to me is how I'm trying to continue on staying in a pleasant pregnancy and being grateful to God for allowing us to have another blessing. And it's just been a crazy whirlwind experience for sure. Like, I never thought that any of this would be me. You know, none of it would happen to me. It never even crossed my mind. So never say never. And don't get too ahead of yourself, live life. Let everything be happy, don't let what people say or other people's experience affect you, but know that other people's experiences could help you get through something rough. So anyway, that was our pregnancy journey. I hope that you guys enjoyed it, especially because I'm pretty sure this is our last pregnancy. Obviously, if it's not, at some point in the future, you guys will see me here again, but I'm pretty sure it is. And so I really hope that I was able to help any of you out there struggling, or if you have a friend or family member who has struggled and you don't know how to talk with them about it, maybe I helped you in some way. I don't know. I just really wanted to share my story. And also I wanted to kind of explain why I'm not so worried about the gender. At this point, whereas most people are so wrapped up in what the gender of their baby is, I honestly don't care. I'm just lucky and blessed to be able to experience it again. So anyway, now I'm done. I hope you guys enjoyed, and we will see you in my next one. Bye.